It was one of those weekends that felt like it was never going to end. I had been exhausted from the moment I opened my eyes that morning. My name is Lisa, and I'm 43 years old. Life had become a constant balancing act between work, managing the house, and dealing with a few recent emotional setbacks. I barely had time to think. My husband Greg was out of town on business for the weekend, something that had become a more frequent occurrence lately, and I was left managing the house on my own. It was fine usually, but this time, things didn't go quite as expected. My stepson Jake, who was 21, had come home for the weekend from college. It wasn't unusual. He visited often. We'd always had a friendly relationship, though I'd always been cautious to keep a certain respectful distance. I married Greg when Jake was 16, and at first, he was distant, almost cold. But over the years, that wall had broken down. He had matured a lot. Now he was thoughtful, polite, and had a gentle kind of charisma that sometimes caught me off guard. That Saturday night, the house was full. Greg's relatives, his cousins and their kids, were staying over unexpectedly due to a power outage in their part of town. I didn't have the heart to say no. So, one by one, air mattresses were inflated, blankets were spread out on couches, and every room quickly filled. By the time it was 11 p.m., there wasn't a single quiet corner in the house. I had given up my own bedroom to the older guests and figured I'd sleep in the den on the small pullout. But as I walked into the den, balancing a pillow and a rolled-up blanket, I saw Greg's cousin already snoring softly on it. I closed the door quietly and stood in the hallway, wondering what to do next. I wasn't going to sleep on the floor. I knew my back would punish me the next morning. My feet led me upstairs before I had fully thought it through. Jake's door was slightly open, and I peeked in. He was awake, propped up on one elbow, the soft glow of his phone lighting his face. "Lisa," he said, sitting up quickly. "Everything okay?" I felt ridiculous, but I asked anyway. "I hate to bother you, but there's literally no room left downstairs. Would you mind if I just crash on the edge of your bed for a few hours?" He blinked, then laughed gently. "Of course. You don't even have to ask. Take as much room as you want." I hesitated. "I'll just take the blanket and sleep on the floor if you give me a pillow." "No way," Jake said, tossing the comforter aside and making space. "The floor's freezing, and you'll be sore in the morning. Just sleep here." I stepped in slowly, still uncertain. The room was warm, and the air smelled faintly, like the pine-scented soap he always used. I crawled onto the bed, careful to stay far on the edge, but the mattress dipped, and I felt my balance wobble. Before I could catch myself, I lost control and landed awkwardly against him. I gasped and pushed off. "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Jake laughed again, but it wasn't mocking. "You okay?" I was mortified. My heart was racing, and my face felt hot. "I didn't mean to. There's just not much space." He waved it off. "It's seriously fine. This bed isn't made for two people, but we'll make it work." I tried to settle in again, this time curling up with my back toward him. The silence stretched, only interrupted by distant murmurs and creaks from the house. I could hear him shift, his breathing slow and steady behind me. But I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, not because of the situation, but because of the sudden awareness I had of how close we were. His presence was calming, but also unsettling.
He was grown now.
Not a child. And in that quiet moment, it was hard not to notice. I scolded myself silently. This was Jake, my husband's son. But the lines between roles felt blurry tonight. "Are you cold?" Jake's voice broke the quiet. "Just a little," I whispered. "Here." I felt him shift behind me, and then part of his blanket was draped gently over me. His hand brushed my shoulder lightly. It was a simple gesture, one filled with kindness, but it sent a ripple through my chest. "Thank you," I said softly. Minutes passed, and I finally began to drift off, until I turned slightly in my sleep and felt the firm shape of his chest behind me. I froze. Then he stirred, just a little, as if reacting to my movement. "Lisa," he whispered.
"Mom."
"You don't have to be so tense." "I'm not tense," I lied, even though every muscle in my body was tight. He paused, then chuckled. You always try to stay in control, don't you? His voice wasn't teasing. It was observant, thoughtful, and it struck a nerve. I swallowed. I guess I do. You don't have to tonight, he said, softer this time. I turned over slightly to look at him. His face was just inches away. There was no smirk, no smugness, just a calm sincerity. The air between us felt charged in a way I hadn't expected. Jake, I started, but didn't know what to say next. It's okay, he said gently. We're just talking. And we did. For over an hour. About his classes, my job, Greg, life. We laughed quietly, whispered, even joked about the strange situation of having a full house and no space. It felt intimate in a way that had nothing to do with the fact that we were lying in the same bed. It was emotional intimacy, the kind that crept up unexpectedly. I didn't remember falling asleep, but I woke up just as the early sunlight began to creep through the blinds. I was still turned toward him, and he was still sleeping. His hand had slipped just slightly over my arm in the night. I didn't move right away. I just stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, trying to figure out what had just happened and what it meant. Later that morning, the house was chaos again. Kids running down the stairs, someone yelling for coffee, Greg's aunt asking about the Wi-Fi password. Jake and I avoided eye contact for a while, not out of guilt, but uncertainty. That afternoon, when everyone had finally cleared out and I was washing a stack of plates at the sink, Jake came into the kitchen and leaned against the counter. He didn't say anything at first. Then, last night wasn't weird for me. Just so you know. I nodded, not looking up. It wasn't weird for me either. We're still cool. Yeah, I said, turning to him. We're still cool. He smiled, and that was it. Nothing inappropriate had happened. Just a night where two people, connected by family, history, and the strange twists of life, found comfort in one another's presence during a moment of chaos. Days passed, and the memory softened. But sometimes, when Greg would mention Jake offhandedly, or when Jake sent a message saying, "Tell Lisa I said hi," I'd remember that night. Not with shame or confusion, but with a kind of bittersweet understanding. Life doesn't always play out in straight lines. Emotions are complex, people are layered, and connections sometimes form where you least expect them. I never told Greg about that night, not because I had something to hide, but because some moments are too complicated to explain. Some moments belong only to the people who shared them, in the silence, in the warmth, and in the quiet understanding of a night where there was no room, and I landed on my stepson. And in that moment, I realized I hadn't just landed on a crowded mattress. I had landed in a space of honesty, vulnerability, and unexpected peace.